So this is the capital planning committee meeting of February 1st. We calling the meeting to order, and I want to announce that the meeting is being recorded. We'll do a roll call of those present.
Gerald Bazikas.
Kristen O'Sullivan.
And Teresa A. Moss present. Do we have, when we check the participants, do we have any members on the Zoom? No, I do not see anything. Okay. We have two, from my understanding, we know for sure one member, and I believe we have a second new member. I believe that has been sworn in, that's absent at this point. And for those of you, we did have Veronica, but we were told due to open meeting laws, she cannot participate as a member, so she was replaced. The next piece on our agenda is to any additions and deletions, and I'd like to discuss the addition about the possibility we have new software, financial software. I know you saw that, you know,
I'm sure, yes.
a little bit. And I saw that it had a capital planning section. So I want to add that a possible little few minute discussion about if we could maybe use that in capital planning instead of the separate worksheets we have for capital planning. We can keep that all together. So I'd like to add that to an addition to today's agenda.
As long as we have somebody who can navigate through that program.
We'll have
I
to see.
Yeah.
I don't mind learning it if we have to. And plus Mark is on the committee. I don't know how comfortable he's going to get with it, so we'll see. And I don't know if anybody had an opportunity to review the minutes from last week. So since a lot of us are new here, what I can do, I think we'll delay on voting accepting the minutes from last week. And I'm gonna say that we hold off on reviewing the minutes from 118. I'll put the minutes from 118 and from this meeting together, and we'll move those to the next meeting if everybody's okay with that.
But do we have to make a motion or not?
It's probably best that we do.
I make a motion that we hold a minute from what was the date? There, what meeting, 118
I have my phone, it's dead, so.
and till next week.
Yeah. I'll second that.
Okay, and roll call.
Gerald Bazikas, yes.
Kristen O'Sullivan. Yes.
And Teresa A. Moore. The next thing we need to do is nominate a chair, and anybody would love to be the chair.
No,
If nobody wants the position, I am more than willing to take the position, but I don't want to usurp anybody.
I'd like to make a motion that Teresa is now our chair.
and could you be the clerk also?
She can, and the vice chair would be great. I will do the vice chair.
Thank you.
I don't think it didn't even say, it says here, and for some reason, I checked on the other thing too, it says that we need a chair and a clerk.
You need a vice chair in case the chair isn't present. Someone has to run the meeting.
It's funny that.
Well, I'll make a motion. I'll make it in two motions.
Okay.
I'll make the first motion that Teresa become our chairperson.
I don't think you need a motion. It's just a vote among
Just
the
a
board.
vote?
Just a
Okay.
vote among the board, and we already voted as you chair.
Okay.
I will do vice chair because I know you don't want to.
I don't want to do clerking.
Oh, sorry.
Well, Mark.
You don't have to, I mean-
Mark, the clerk, when
Yeah.
he's not here. And then
Yeah.
if he objects.
Yeah.
we could,
We'll do that. We'll do that.
The clerk is really, I'll be responsible for minutes as chair, so it's not.
Well, that's
being
actually the
responsible.
clerk.
That's
The
the
clerk
clerk.
is the one that reads all
They actually do all the,
the
Oh.
things, so I don't mind doing the minutes,
Yeah.
so. if Mark doesn't mind reading the agenda and going through the agenda as for that, that's how we can split.
Will the agenda be set for him?
What?
Will the agenda be set for him? Or will he have to provide the agenda?
I'll accept it.
You set the agenda?
The chair always sets these.
So I just don't like to, I stutter a lot, so if you go through them at the meeting and
Oh, I never noticed it.
then that would be good.
Okay.
Basically, I have to say, okay, now we move on to 2.2 and then he.
Okay, I see.
Okay. So we got through 2.1, moving on to 2.2. We want to meet with Eric. Hello, Eric. Are you there?
Your picture's gone.
Yeah, I don't see him I don't see any more pictures. So.
Here.
Yeah.
He tried to get himself on mute and he disappeared. We'll give him a second to come back. And he's gonna go over the funds available and then go over schedule of what we're going to try to do with the department heads.
We have to was anything up here, it is. Someday someone's gonna clean up.
This is kind of disgusting.
February 2010. Look at the board.
Okay. Eric's writing, I asked him if he's able to get back in. He's trying to get back in right now. So as we're waiting for him to get back in, what I wanted to, we'll move on to
2.4.
2.3,
2.4.
which is the rating sheet. You were on this committee last year. Jerry, were you?
Mhm.
Oh,
I've been on
you
this
guys
committee for
are
about
familiar
5
with
years.
this rating too.
Yes.
Well, I am not, and from what I gather, it's a lot of fun.
I can promise you that in the last 3 years, the only one that actually did those was Veronica.
Right.
Everybody else, we kind of sat down and we discussed it. And we actually made a decision on one of those instead of everybody doing one. Because we are a committee and, you know, I think having a committee is easy for everyone to sit down and discuss and just, we all sit down as individuals and make decisions.
Okay,
That is going to be up to you, Madam Chair.
so I did read through this. We're talking about this, right?
The ABC thing,
Right.
you know, the 1, 2, 3 or whatever it was.
Yeah. Yeah, this, I have to say, it's not something that I see that I would use. I really feel that we really, there are some things in the policy, and you know me, I'm a nerd. So as soon as I got assigned to the committee, not only did I print out the entire policy, but I highlighted. My husband made fun of me that I put yellow marker on certain pages.
It's actually a good idea.
That are,
So you get through college.
really, does that make sense? So, this is something I certainly, it feels like.
Eric,
Eric, are you
Okay.
back finally?
We just moved ahead to 2.3. We're just gonna talk about it for a second, Eric, and then we're gonna come back to you.
Absolutely.
I can see that if there was some value to that exercise, but especially rating them individually in that way, and then trying to get the information together, I don't, see the value. I rather us meet together as a group, go through the items that we have, and as a committee, say, you know, what do we need? Why do we need it? And we'll go forward. One thing, I did though, well, now that
Go ahead, finish.
I do want to share. I was kind of interested when I did go to the capital planning webpage, that it did talk about, remember we were going back and forth about whether paving the streets could be put on part of capital plan. It did kind of imply that was a reasonable thing to have put out on a capital plan, and I'll show you that in the when I bring up talk about this a little further. But let's move on to what Eric has to say. We'll go through what Eric. Welcome back, Eric.
Can I just say one thing
Yeah.
real quick? And I know you love to save trees, but I'm not a computer guy. I don't look at computers.
Yeah.
So I'm a hard copy guy, and I think
Okay.
Jerry is also. So
Okay, so
we're gonna we will going to have to request that
Okay.
of you. Okay, go ahead, Eric, your turn. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I won't take over. I promise.
Sorry about the delay, guys. The wonders of technology had me struggling to be in the meeting earlier. So hopefully this will be okay. The main thing I wanted to talk about this evening was the funds available for purposes of capital planning for the FY24 budget. As I think everybody here knows, we had some struggles both in December and January with getting a quorum for town meeting, and so we have a whole bunch of financial articles that did not go through town meeting. That were a chunk of them, I think 7. Were free cash articles. At the end of the day, I believe, Jalen, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that the FinCom eventually voted to recommend all of the free cash articles that the Board of Selectmen had put on the warrants. We had a total of almost $500,000 in free cash certified by the state, and we anticipate that after, if those free cash articles are indeed acted on at the spring town meeting, we'll have approximately $343,000 left in free cash. As with every year, there are probably about 100 different places that people would like to use that free cash. The first place is obviously going to be our snow and ice deficit. I mean, knock on wood, if we keep having a relatively mild year, that should be less than usual. But typically speaking in Townsend, that's around $200,000. So it means we'll have $140,000 left in free cash, approximately, if all of the articles go through. Last year, capital planning, because of an excess in free cash, made the determination that they would fund all of the capital requests that they were going to fund with free cash, with a couple of exceptions. With only 143,000 left, that doesn't seem like that's going to be an option this year, but it's possible that there could be something funded from that free cash as opposed to from borrowing. If that's what folks made the determination made sense. At this point in time, in the budget process, I'm not ready to recommend that. But I wanted to let the committee know that that funds likely will be, potentially available. The second source of funding that we have is the capital stabilization account. At the May 2022 town meeting, so there are some older warrant articles that were closed out, and the funds were transferred to capital stabilization because of a clerical error in that closeout that was supposed to be corrected at fall town meeting. We're still waiting for those actual transfers to be done, but that likely is to add another $30,000 to the existing account balance, which is $119,000. So we're going to have roughly $150,000 in capital stabilization. Excuse me?
Say that again, please.
We're going to have roughly $150,000 in capital stabilization.
Left over?
That's that. That's the capital stabilization account. And so the typically speaking, the main form of funding for capital requests comes from borrowing. We had apart from the water enterprise, which is separate and apart from the town for purposes of debt, the town took on a couple of large pieces of equipment last year. One was a fire truck, and one was a large highway truck.
Dump truck.
So those were added to the debt service in bonding that we're doing as we speak with bond counsel. Because of some other savings in that the treasurer has realized, that we'll be able to absorb that debt without an increase in debt spending. Because of some savings and some other kind of accounts that the treasurer oversees. We have about close to $100,000 worth of annual payments that are going to be retired at the end of 2024. So my kind of suggestion for purposes of debt for the committee to evaluate is debt service that would be approximately $50,000 this year, and that would leave us with debt service of approximately $50,000 for next year's capital planning as well. To take into account that that $100,000 is going to be coming off at the end of this.
Eric, is this something you're recommending we do, or is this something that's just going to happen?
Well, the $100,000 is going to come off at the end of debt service is going to come off at the end of FY24. But for purposes of the capital planning committee thinking about how much they have to to play with for purposes of borrowing, my suggestion would be to take that $100,000 and say, we can spend half of it this year and half of it next year for purposes of long-term debt spending. So, typically speaking, the way that debt spending works is you look at the asset that you're buying, you look at how long you would borrow that for, and then see what that would mean for the annual payments. Plus, we generally throw in about 4% for the interest for municipal borrowing. So if I say the capital planning committee, it would be prudent to say take on an extra $50,000 worth of debt spending. for FY24, that means, the annual payments of the debt that we take on not exceed $50,000, annual payments and interest. What that means for what you can borrow depends on how long of debt you're going to see. So if you're talking about, I know the facilities is put on the capital plan a request for a pickup truck. If you're talking about a pickup truck, you generally don't want the debt service to be longer than the lifespan of the asset. So as with most commercial vehicles, you're talking about 5 to 7 years. So a $40,000 truck over 7 years, or say it's 42,000, which I think is what is on the capital request for facilities, over 7 years is $6,000 a year plus interest. So that's kind of the thought process in determining how much you have to borrow. So if that took up $6,000 plus interest, which would be, maybe say $6,500, then you've got, $4,500 or $45,000 left to quote unquote borrow. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Listening to what Teresa said, I do know that lots of cities and towns do put additional money for streets as part of their capital spending for street paving. So doing that certainly something to contemplate. Assets like fire vehicles obviously have a much longer lifespan than a regular kind of run-of-the-mill commercial truck. So I think that we put the fire truck that we bought last year, I think we put on for 15 years borrowing for that fire truck. We do take on capital spending this year. I'm likely to request that we use some funding from capital stabilization to cover that spending this year until the two other loans that retire at the end of the year retire, to keep our debt spending level. And probably suggest that we backfill our capital stabilization account with some free cash, so that the stabilization account doesn't drop in amounts. But the long and the short of it is to do an evaluation of kind of the capital requests that we have, and see how much we can fit into the window, into the that $50,000 in payments per annum window. And the reason why I say that is because I do think it's a good idea for us to have regular debt rolling on and off the town's rolls each year, to give us the chance to borrow each year. So that if an expense comes up that's a larger capital expense, we could say, hey, we need to take the full $50,000 this year and put it towards this one item. If we have a larger capital expense that comes in, we'll have that flexibility. So rather than spending it all at once, I'd rather, if we have it, so we have, $50,000 to $75,000 a year in payments that we can do every year. If going forward a large expense comes forward, we'll be able to absorb it in that capital plan. Maybe you have to put off the other expenses, but we should still be able to absorb it without kind of wrecking our debt situation. I know I threw a lot of numbers at you guys all at once. Do you guys have any questions for me?
I have a couple. Just looking at, I know this, you want to pay everything with free cash. How does the snow removal budget usually fund it? Is that through their budget, or do you have a special line item for that? I mean, to me, that's a recurring thing yearly. And I'm not quite sure that fits into capital planning because it changes every year. It's not like asking for.
Oh no, I wasn't suggesting we do anything with snow and ice in capital planning. We're gonna be
Oh,
paying
okay.
off the snow and ice from free cash.
Okay. Oh, all right. I'm getting a little confused between
Yeah, no, I was just trying to give you a
budget recap and what everybody wants.
yeah, no, the
This
my
really doesn't
description of the
affect.
free of snow and ice was just to talk about where that free cash money is going, so you knew how I got to the 130,000 left in free cash.
Oh, okay.
Didn't
Yeah, no,
we,
that's not capital. No.
Oh, yeah.
didn't we last year try to put, an article in for doing the roads and didn't it get turned down?
We did put that into capital plan. If you look at the capital planning 5-year plan, there was an article for road and pavement, which I didn't even think belonged in capital planning. I thought that should be funded
Or something
elsewhere.
else? Yeah.
But like I said, I did look on the webpage, this is what I was trying to say, I did look at on a webpage and it gave an example of the 5-year plan. And it did say you could do like construction, land acquisition. So it made me think, well, maybe I'm wrong, maybe pavement could go in there, but I don't know, Eric, what you were saying, you could see it going either way, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think unfortunately for a town where the situation we have right now in town is, the Chapter 90 funds that we get from the state are not sufficient for us to pave all of the town roads in the time that they need to get paved. So we do a lot of patching, and we do a lot of the highway department does their best to maintain the most heavily trafficked roads as best as they can. If we were to dedicate, I think there's actually an ordinance on the books that says there's a certain amount of money that's supposed to be put into paving every year. That doesn't generally happen because it would almost require an override to do it. If you're going to level fund other services.
What happened to the state funds that was supposed to be coming in for giving us money for roads? Did they use that all?
Well, that's Chapter 90. We get that every year, and we spend all of it every year. And Jimmy over at Highway also applies for multiple grants for additional funds every year. There's Safe Routes to School. There's Complete Streets grants. There are Shared Streets and Spaces grants. So we apply for multiple grants for both road and sidewalk infrastructure improvement every year. The reality is that even with all that money, there's not enough to do the volume of work that would need to be done to maintain all the roads in the manner in which I think the residents would prefer them. So additional funds, if it's available, additional funds for paving would definitely be useful and would be used by the highway department to pick off roads that they would normally be able to pick off during the year.
Unfortunately, the cost of roads, our budget, even if we gave them all to do roads, wouldn't even do one road.
When we took out the.
It's just too expensive.
Yeah. So
I
think that it is an unenviable task to look at capital requests that we all know are going to be way more than the money that we have to spend, and try to figure out which ones are the most crucial ones for us to do.
Well, in the past, and this may have been 3-4 years ago, when the retired fire chief was our chair, remember?
Yes.
He did a great job of figuring out how to fund everything, like through some capital, through their budgets, through different things. I mean, he was phenomenal. he knew all the ins and outs of budgets and where the money was and where it came from. For myself, I'm on, another board, but we are knowing of funding like FinCom and selectmen. I don't really have privy to where all that money comes from and goes. So I rely a lot on Teresa and Jerry. As far as that stuff goes. I can only work on this through just this stuff that's written down, on these, what they requests, for like a dump truck or, the asphalt box or something like that, as far as trying to figure out what we can do with the limited amount of funds that we have. That's all I can see that this board can do without, the help of the other two ladies here, because I don't sit on FinCom. I don't even really know what they do.
Well, I think that you've kind of appropriately delineated the first steps, and as you folks meet and start to then meet with the department heads and ask them, their priorities, because I think you want to kind of defer to them about where they say they have a critical needs. I think those meetings, I think, will drive how these things are ranked. And once they're ranked and spread out over 5 years, that's kind of the other crucial piece, is to be able to say to this person, is this something you absolutely need this year, or is this something that you could wait until 2025 to get? To try to say, we're going to push this out to next year.
I can tell you these things we have here, which I don't know if you can see. That's
No, I have them. They're on the agenda, so
yeah. So we used to get them, capital planning comments used to have used to come through with like a number of 1 through 5 or 6, whatever, and the department head would rank them before we got to them, what they thought was the most important. Here, we don't have that. And I know we're time short right now because we started so late, and we're gonna have to, what did we say, Teresa? We were gonna push them in next week, I think?
Yeah.
Is it next week that they're gonna be in to talk to us about what they want?
Yeah, work with Eric on that, but that's what we're trying
You know,
to do, Eric.
Yeah, we're trying to get, each department will have to obviously do highway and maybe facilities one day, and then police and fire another day, and water department another day. To get them to come in and tell us exactly how they plan, to tell us what they want first, what's most important, and their important needs, so we can continue with our job as to make recommendations to, I guess, FinCom and the selectmen for the budget.
Right.
Unless we can, I don't know, is there the opportunity to do it the other way? We already have what we think is needed for 2024. So for water, we have it listed as gas hybrid electric dump truck F450. And then for police, we have bathroom on second floor and reservation of the wreckage room.
That's 20,
So
this.
when we go back and say, this is what we have listed, for next year, can we just go forward with this? Or do we need to meet and see if you have new items for the list? Could we do, you know what I'm saying? Is there a possibility
That's what,
to just go that way instead of?
This one? Oh, I do not, but we can share this one, Jerry.
So we should do this one?
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, I think the key is to understand, that kind of what we have as
This is already.
a
Remember taking this.
for our
So I guess.
kind of expected ability to borrow, and how we fit the requests from the departments into that picture. Because we're not gonna, this is a hard job because the answer is, unfortunately, for some of these folks, is going to be, we can't do that now. um, you know, um,
Okay, and the review of the capital plan request that we have to get scheduled, is that is that just that the department heads meet with you and they go over
No,
their
they come to
request, or
us.
do we have to have be a full board?
they meet with the capital planning committee.
They
And
meet
they
with
do
us.
have
Yeah,
to-
that's stuff.
Okay,
So we have to schedule so many,
okay.
And I think,
fire and, police
Fire-
don't take longest.
Yeah, well, it
Okay.
looks to me like water might be a lot, because they have. Well, actually, they only got one thing for 24. I'm a little curious here, and we are in budget 22 right now.
We're in 23.
We're in
23 already started? I thought that
20,
started.
23
July.
started in July of 22.
So it's over
we're meeting
here.
with them for 24,
Gotcha,
to discuss
Okay.
24, right?
yeah,
And if you include the $200,000 for road pavement, which, we're never gonna get, then we're already like $100,000 over budget.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
okay,
So it looks like just if you're talking about police has got, they've got 110,000. Highway's got 100,000. Water and FY24.
I always only got 50,000 if we do away with,
if we do away with.
we do with the 200,000, they only have 50,000.
We can't do away with paving or I'll get lynched on this, too. We gotta do.
Well,
We've been trying to do paving trees for years,
I know.
years and years.
highways.
Have
So
the
guys,
money.
highways capital plan that I see has a $75,000 pickup truck, a $15,000 culvert camera, and a $10,000 wing plow. In FY24.
It's definitely not the stuff we're looking at.
We don't have.
We don't have that. What I have listed for 2024, okay?
I think you guys are looking at the capital stuff from last year.
Don't know what
That
these are.
is, that is.
Oh, we don't have the new ones then.
It was all attached to the email invite. It's all on the in the
What did I
Outlook.
tell you about that? I like hard copies. I don't do computers.
I didn't do it. I didn't do it, Chris. I'm just letting you. That's why I'm looking at it.
Okay, so these are from last year, Teresa.
Okay.
All right, give
Yeah, and so
give
I
us a
actually
couple
think
minutes. Yeah.
that part of the plan for you guys was to look at last year, but only to look at what was requested for last year. Their FY24s have now changed, and so, so for instance, highway doesn't have any highway. They're not asking for any paving money for their FY24 capital plan.
Well, that makes our job easier. We need to know what they're asking for, so we can say what we want to do or recommend what we want to do with the money. If we don't know what anybody wants,
Can't say.
we can't do our job. So let
Well-
Jason look it up, print these out for me and Jerry, so we can actually look at what you're talking about.
Yeah. So I just wanted to let you know.
Yeah.
So police is looking for $100,000. Highway's looking for $100,000. Facilities did not do it the way I wanted them to do it. They put everything in FY24, which means we're going to have a conversation with them about, or you guys are going to have a conversation with facilities about what their priorities are. But I know one of the top priorities I think is the pickup truck. And then I would just have to ask questions to Water about whether they're making a request that we fund this out of the town's capital budget, or are we going to have a separate capital line for water that they're paying? That would be the question for them.
Yeah. Water usually,
Pays for their.
they pay for their own stuff. I mean,
Right.
they
And so-
are separate from the town, so.
And so that would be a question for when you guys have them in to say, because I don't have the information on the water enterprise. That's something we need to get from Dave about how much more debt they can absorb for capital. Still has to be voted on, so.
Eric, I see the stuff that Veronica sent out now.
It's all attached to that Outlook.
Is there a way I can, since I'm hooked up in here in the office, that I can print to this printer that you know
That I do not know. I know that it's done. I just don't know how to do it.
of? Okay.
Maybe you could just share them on
Yeah, I
the screen share
have
them.
it, but I like to get them written copies, but.
I know,
Okay.
I absolutely get the written copies. It's super important. But if you screen share, at least they'd be able to see as you go through them.
Okay, okay, so,
So I
That's-
think, I think, again, we don't have, this is not something we have to solve today. I think scheduling for 2 of the departments to show up, next week, is a great.
Yes. Next agenda item, so we'll go through that and we'll figure that out.
If you want, Hartley, if you want to let me share a screen, I can throw something up.
Okay, let me do the,
Let's see.
I wish I could.
Okay, can you guys see what I have up here?
Yes,
Okay. So this is the highway department's capital improvement plan.
Right.
5 years. As you can see, they noted that the 4 items in FY 23
Yep.
that were already approved and
yeah,
either ordered or already received. And then the highlighted line is their FY 24 request. So they're requesting an F-350 pickup with a plow, a
inspection
culvert
camera.
inspection camera, and a 10-foot wing plow for
Yeah.
a total of $100,000.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Let's print these out first.
I'm
Uh,
gonna try, I'm
yeah.
working on that now while we
Yeah.
do that.
Okay, all right, so that
And-
takes care of them. Roll us up to, I don't know, fire.
Police.
Yeah,
Police. Okay, so yeah, so this is their
2024.
5-year capital plan. You guys see what I pulled up?
yeah,
Okay. They didn't put FY 23 on here. They started with FY 24. So they've got vehicle leases for two cruisers. Is that $75,000? And they're doing a records management project for $35,000. Now,
what is that, what does that mean?
I think they're trying to digitize their old files. I
And
think
they
that's the
don't,
request.
they don't have someone to do that? I mean, now listen, I'm not a computer guy, but you know, to me, if you're sitting in your office, you can sit there and put stuff in a computer. Why can't you just do that? I don't know.
So, I think, Chris, those are excellent questions to ask the police chief when he comes in to meet with you. There's also a possibility for us to maybe get some
I think that
state
should come
funding,
out of
like a
their own
grant to
budget.
cover something like this.
I think he should pay for that himself. His job is to keep their own records, not,
Well, it's not his records; these are older records.
well, it's
Um,
police department records, are they not?
How far back do they have to go on with
So that's his request. Facilities, like I said, facilities didn't break it down over 5
They
years.
want it all in 1 year, huh?
Yeah, so I think this is not as helpful.
Who's actually would we talk to? Is that,
That's Rob.
Rob's we'll have Rob come in and he's gonna have to just, you know, say what.
I think he's going to have to
needs
tell you
for
the things that he's willing to bump.
Yeah, yeah, that's fine.
So that makes
I
sense.
don't ever remember, I don't ever remember anything from facilities before.
And then water,
Yeah.
I don't have a good.
Oh.
I don't understand what this is.
Return it.
I'm gonna
No,
flip you sideways.
I think, yeah. Let me see if I can.
All right, everybody lay on the table and look at the screen.
Clockwise. There we go.
oh, all right, that
So
looks
it's
better.
only-
So in FY24, they've got checked a Main Street generator, the harbor treatment plant, and the South Road Emery Road. So these are all things that I think
A million. Yeah, you want.
these are already, we already have borrowing out for these amounts. So I
I
don't
was gonna
think, when you call Dave in, the question is going to be, is there anything additional to what we've already approved? Because that money got approved at town meeting to do this borrowing.
Yeah.
And if there's something
when we-
extra,
That would be
Um,
horrible.
as I mentioned to you, and I think Jalen's right. Their funding's going to come from their budget and not out of kind of the money that I was talking to you about.
Yeah,
The one thing it looks like we're missing is fire.
yeah, I don't,
And I put in a request to the chief, and so hopefully we'll have that to give to you guys ASAP.
yeah, I mean, from last year, they don't have really anything listed in fire for this year.
Yeah, they had a big truck and an ambulance they got last year. So,
Yeah,
They did.
so I think they understood that was kind of their bite of the apple for a couple of years.
yeah. Do we?
So, if we can get facilities to come up with a reasonable amount here, and we say we have, if we're talking about 7 years of borrowing, and we're talking about $50,000 a year, you're talking about probably $300,000 that we can borrow.
Storage cabinets.
Library, why couldn't that go into the one? Ceiling fans for the library? Why couldn't that come under their umbrella?
It should.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, he's just doing what he's looking for. Remember, we always sit there and go, well, no, because that should come out of, like, the police goes, yeah, we want this. Well, that's gonna come out of your budget.
right.
We can only we only got, what, 150,000 to play with. It's not like, we have $1 million budget that we can give everybody. We just
Well,
gotta.
like I said, if we borrow at 4.5%, and the borrowing goes over, say, 7 years,
Yeah,
we could borrow this year, $325,000. So you have a request of 100,000 from the police, you got 100,000 from highway. If facilities can figure out 50 or 60,000 from facilities, then maybe we could put $75,000 towards paving. I'm just throwing out random numbers there.
no, I understand.
That's the jigsaw puzzle that I'm leaving you guys to fiddle with.
I think so. I
Keep
agree.
taking money out of them.
Well, it's, and now I hate to go with rumors because that's all they are at this point is, there were rumors of, possible, anonymous donors to help with some of the, old buildings and stuff.
That's our room.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know it as fact, so I keep it
Yeah.
as rumor.
So
So some of this stuff like the rec windows.
So he's got certain buildings he's doing,
Oh, does it?
the
Yeah.
historical buildings.
Oh, this is a
Yeah.
historical building.
It's not, well,
Yeah, I don't know the deal. I'm just, trying to figure it out. But,
yeah,
yeah,
so there are some things on this list, like the dispose old documents and preserve the old library, that we're, again, like the police, we're going to seek a grant to do that. So
Yeah.
that's probably not something that needs to be on the capital plan for this year.
yeah,
Window replacement, that's something we could probably look to green communities to try to do at Memorial Hall, is to do energy efficient windows. And so if we get a green communities grant for that, that can come off this. So I think there's some things on here that we might be able to push over to a green communities grant. And I'm going to have Rob meet with the energy committee to talk about that specifically with respect to his capital request.
Yeah, PFW doesn't have the big bonfire anymore, huh?
Big one.
The big bonfire, remember they used to have the
They haven't
bonfire?
had anything.
I was
gonna
gonna
say, see this line right here? Dispose of old documents? That would be great for that big fire.
So,
I could have just saved you $60,000.
so I hope that what the information I've given you is helpful in
Yes,
your
very much so.
moving forward. I'm going to stop sharing now. Stop sharing. There we go.
Okay.
So I hope that was helpful, and I will be working with the departments to let them know that you guys are going to want to talk to them, and so they should come in with their wish lists and prioritized in order, so you guys can know.
Okay.
But I think it's pretty straightforward with the new information, and we'll make
Yeah.
sure we have copies of all of them, including fire, to get to you for the next meeting.
Okay, so the next item on our agenda, Eric, is that we do need, to talk to each of the department heads. Do you think it's realistic to try to get that done in 1 or 2 days and like have them come up, bump, 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 back to each other? Or do you think we should spread it out?
Oh, I definitely think you should do it 1 or 2 days. Absolutely. Give them here's the deal. They can talk to you about this stuff forever. But I think you give them 15 minutes and say, highway, here's your 15 minutes to tell us about what you're asking for and why it's important, why you need it this year. And then facilities, here's your 15 minutes. So you guys don't need to hear the long version. You need to hear the short and dirty version of what you're asking for and how you prioritize it. And I'm gonna tell Rob he needs to do a better job getting his things prioritized, because he's only gonna have 15 minutes to talk to you guys. So I think that's what you do. And quite frankly, so you could do 3, maybe even 4 departments in a night if you're giving them 15 minutes to come in and make their spiel.
Okay.
Yeah, well, we could do that, but usually, police and fire take longer.
Oh yeah, well, I say 15. I say give them 15 minutes, understanding they're going to take 20 or 25.
Yeah.
That's why you don't want to do 4. That's why you should probably but if you scheduled 3, I think that would be fine.
We actually only we've got what, water, fire, police, and facilities,
And highway.
and highway, yeah, highway is probably another one. So I mean, if we booked fire and police, say, in
Yep.
one night,
For
And
fire,
then
police on
4.
one night, and the other 3 on another night. I think you get through them in 2 weeks.
I think so.
yeah, I mean, just from experience, the Teresa that we've done over the years.
So I just sent these all to Samantha, all these forms that you just saw. You guys don't take this on email, right? So I sent these all
What's
to,
that?
I can send them to you on email as well, so you have.
We need
them.
our copies.
But I did send them to Samantha, and he's gonna print them out for you. So
Okay.
anytime you wanna stop by,
Yeah.
to have them ready. I told them to correlate them and have them, so
Yeah.
all of these. But do
Okay.
you also want me to send them so you have electronic copy, or it's not even worth it?
I read them on my phone. You
Okay,
can
so
if you want.
Send them to you.
You
Okay.
can, I just remember I have other
back.
commitments also, so I can't
So
always do
to
that.
your point, but I know you'll never in them there.
This lighting is awesome.
So, Sabrina will have a copy. I can't
Okay.
get hooked up to
Yeah.
the computer, so I can't make them for you tonight, but.
Yeah, do we have the mailbox?
Have
Does
them.
Capital have a mailbox?
We should.
I
I'll
don't.
double check on that
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Is
I don't
it-
think we do.
No. I know
I don't think Capital's the kind of committee that has a mailbox because it's only around for
Yeah,
a short period of time.
okay,
Okay, so anyways, you are gonna get paper copies of these. And I
Thank you.
apologize, I didn't,
Yeah.
I didn't look at them close enough and they looked at first thing.
No,
I did look
you're
at the
fine.
same as what I had, so
Right.
my apologies.
no, you're fine,
So,
you're new at this too.
so, It's a, doesn't have them, I'm sure we can print them off pretty quick. Thank you for it.
Yeah.
For, going forward, I will always make sure we have printed copies.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I don't know if you want to have them for Mark and,
I said 5 copies.
oh, did you? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Yeah, very good, very good. Yeah,
So, thank you. No, I did
Thank you,
ask if
appreciate
I
it very
could.
much.
So timeline wise, are we good for, we have technically a Zoom meeting set up already for the 8th and the 15th at 5 o'clock.
A Zoom meeting?
With who?
We have like that we can,
Oh,
like in how we're recording can go out to the public.
Okay,
Yeah, so there's already meetings scheduled for the next two Wednesdays.
Okay,
We
The
already
Zoom
have
link's
like
already
that.
created.
okay, so we're here, and they can
Right.
Zoom in.
So. if
oh,
the
and that's
department
kind of why no one
heads
comes to
need
town meeting, because we want to do everything. done.
They could still do it from home.
Right.
And come in, they wouldn't even have to come
Right,
in to be in front of us.
I don't like that. I'm telling you right now, I don't like that. And this is why that you guys love these Zoom things, that no one comes to your town meetings. They figure they can sit their ass at home and watch.
Certainly tell them we want them in.
I'm just being honest with you. That's why. You're making life too easy for everybody.
so the 8th and the
That's-
15th.
Yeah, but I do want to make it easy for them.
Then you don't expect anyone to show up at a town meeting. If you're going here,
hi Eric, I'll talk to you from here. How do you get people to come sign up to, so we can have a quorum?
Well,
you can't do it on computer. And you guys keep wanting to do that, where you don't want the town to participate in any of your meetings other than sit home and do nothing. Sorry, that's a fact of life that
but the
I don't like
department
it.
heads, I do want to make things easy for them if we can, to defend their budget, but if we are gonna ask that they come in here, but that, all that being said, what I'm trying to say, we already have next Wednesday and the Wednesday after. Does that give us enough time? If we get everything done in those next 2 weeks?
With the boards, yes, because that'll still give us time
Kind of
to discuss,
discuss it, yeah.
what they have. I mean, our meetings are for what, hour and a half or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if we give them, figure a half hour, even though we won't tell them a half hour, tell them 15 minutes. It'll give us time to discuss what they wanted, for their budgets and what they propose to us.
So the only other question I have with that is, with the schedule a meeting with the department heads. Personally, I think we just tell them to be here at 5 for our meeting.
That's fine.
And I don't want to say, because one might go shorter, one might go longer, right?
Oh
So-
yeah, just tell them to show up at 5, absolutely.
I was gonna say, because if you say, your time is 5 and your time is 5:30, and if he runs over, then the guy's at 5:30, then he gets a here versus. But now he's mad because he was here. But if you say everybody at 5 and draw straws to whoever gets to go first or whatever, I don't know, whatever. Plus, they can see how tough we are and argue against each other. So my preference is the meeting starts at 5.
There you
We can
go.
even go back and forth if we want, whatever seems fair. But the meeting starts at 5, whoever walks through the door first, we work on
There
you go.
or whatever, we can come up with some other thing. But I don't want to try to schedule, your time is at 5, yours is 5:15 or whatever.
Perhaps if they hear the other sides of the other departments, they might get a little clue. what's
So
going
we
on.
will start next week with 5. That will be our only agenda items, that I have put. Can't imagine we would have any other agenda items
No,
that we have.
we'll
We'll just do
Yeah.
that.
And then we have to figure it out
And,
after that.
and.
Yeah.
We'll try to go through, do you want to try to do 3 or do you want to just stick to 2?
I think for those police and fire, I think
Police
it's
and
a lot to absorb.
Yeah,
Okay, so we'll do 2 and then 2 and 2.
Well, so my suggestion would be,
3,
yeah,
2 and then 3.
yeah,
Two and two.
yeah.
my suggestion would be that since we already have the requests from Highway and facilities and water that do them next week, and then do police and fire the week after, since we haven't gotten fire's capital request yet.
Oh, we haven't got anything from fire yet.
No.
They're gonna miss out, because we're
Well,
running out.
Yeah, so I anticipated, I just don't wanna,
The water
Yeah.
is pretty straightforward, so we do highway facility and water next week.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
So who takes care of inviting them?
That would be
Eric?
Eric,
Eric.
if you guys let me know that you wanna do it that way, I'll let them know that they need to be there for the.
so
for-
we want all the department heads for this, we determined, 3.6, we determined that the schedule for the meeting for the department heads is going to be, but, highway,
Facility.
facilities and water, next week.
Right.
At next week's meeting at 5 o'clock, and the following week at 5 o'clock, we are going to have, police and fire.
Okay, I will let all of those department heads know that they're expected at 5 o'clock for the capital planning committee on those evenings.
Okay,
Okay, good.
Thank
and
you.
that takes us through everything on the agenda. The only addition, I was gonna add 2.7, and Eric, I need your help with this. We were looking at the new Clearview software or whatever, Clear Choice or whatever.
Clear
Um,
Gov, yes,
ClearDove, it has a capital planning section.
yes.
Do you think there's any value to switching capital planning onto that software?
Need to find some young people that on computers.
So I think we're gonna have some training on it. And then once we get training on it, we're gonna have to make that determination as to whether or not that's.
Okay. Well, let's just keep it in our background, in the back of our heads, but I don't wanna upset the apple cart too much right now, but.
Right.
We'll, keep it in the back of our head.
Just keep
Okay,
in mind
sounds good.
who you get to show up all the time and
Okay.
what we do.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Eric.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye now. All right.
Somebody make a motion to adjourn at 6 something?
I don't have a block.
6:05. Oh,
Second,
motion to adjourn?
and we just did that,
No.
and I seconded.
Please say more, yes.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Yeah.
Chris knows all.
Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you.